Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thriving in Chaos. I am your host, Rebel Phoenix. With me, as always, is my amazing co host, Stella Renee.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. I'm okay. How are
Oh, you already
things?
know I'm fantastic.
That you are, like always.
I am. Always.
No doubt in my mind.
Oh, you know me. I'm riding in style these days, buddy.
Yeah, man.
So,
That's
in
awesome.
addition to our usual sponsorships, I'm going to give Moses Auto a free shout out. And there it
Yeah.
was.
Quick and
For
easy.
all your quick and easy car buying needs, go to Moses Factory Outlet on Corridor G in West Virginia. Thanks. I
Or yes,
actually
if
know
you're
where
in
he
West Virginia.
lives. Well, yeah,
Oh, that's not
obviously, if you're
creepy
in
at
West
all.
Virginia. No, look, I was driving around because I do that when I'm bored. It's how I learn my way around new places. Okay, so when I first moved to
Makes sense.
Charleston, I went driving around and I ended up on Presidential Drive and happened to come across the big ass house he lives in, the owner,
Oh, that's
Presidente,
funny.
whatever you want to call him. It's cool.
That's
And, obviously it's the house I would have picked too, so I don't blame him.
funny.
I mean, it
Fair
was
enough.
literally the
Fair enough.
nicest one in the neighborhood, and all of them in the neighborhood are nice.
Fair enough.
Super fancy.
This
Like,
is all I
you have
want. A
to dress
creepy
super
little cottage in
fancy.
the woods. That's all I ever want.
Well, I mean, that's my dream too, but, my husband
Right
has
here,
a
right
thing
here.
about cabins by the lake. Apparently, we watch too many horror movies, so I'm not allowed to
Who'd
have
have thunk?
that because, he's afraid I
Was it
might
the
go
end of the
secret
street? Or
window.
whatever it was called?
Yeah, I just think he doesn't want me to go, you know, Johnny Depp secret window style.
Fine. Anyways.
Fine. Anyway, back to business before we party. So, by all
Business to the
means, if
front.
you're enjoying the show, please check out our sponsors, our endorsers, Century PC. We
Yep.
got all your software needs, home,
Yep.
business, school, family, you name it, they got it. I'm not tech
Yeah.
savvy. Stella, that's more her realm of expertise. I'm, the movie trivia nerd, but she knows all about computers and software. So definitely
All of
if
it.
we're promoting it, you should be buying it.
You
And,
should be. Yeah,
you
so,
know,
if anybody needs to know what they do specifically, you buy a license, and if you're using it for your family, you can buy one and then get another one at a discounted price, and you can actually watch what your kids are doing on their tablets or phones or anything like that, so if you're a
yeah.
parent like I am, that's really important.
Oh yeah, for sure. I am not a parent,
And I don't know
so
about anybody
again,
out there, but I don't
that
trust
is
my
your
kids and their internet searches, so
that is all you, boo. That is your area of expertise over there. You got the family and the software covered. Me, on the other hand, I'm more of an expert in the other area with our other partner endorsing us, Innovative Extracts, CBD products. They
Yeah.
got it.
Heck
You
yeah.
need it. They got it. They got pet products. They got um tinctures and all kinds of different flavors, and your first order's 15% off. So why not use our
We
link?
should
Give it a
start that ad
try.
with, "Do you need to calm the fuck down? I got something for
Right.
you."
Right? They specialize in sleeping, stress, pain relief. Everybody got pain
Absolutely.
these days. Why not? Why not? It's all the medical properties of
CBD
marijuana.
is wonderful for
It
that,
is.
for
It
pain.
is. It's all the medical properties of marijuana, but none of the fun parts.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
use our link, check them out. You'll thank me later. And moving
absolutely.
on, are the do do you want to tell them about Mythic Printing?
Yes, so if you check out Mythic Printmasters, you will get some very cool options for, 3D printed items. He's got animals and fidgets, and if you see something or somewhere that you want, if you just reach out to him. So, he actually has one of my favorite things he has, and again, I keep forgetting to bring them in when I record. He has a capybara that I absolutely love. Um,
Ooh, that's interesting.
I know, it's so cool because you never see them.
Yeah, I was
He's
gonna
got some
say that. I
really
don't
neat
think I've ever
dragon
seen one
print.
of those.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. And he actually so it's actually so if anybody doesn't know, it's actually my brother. Um he made me a really cool like keychain. It's like a rabbit with a keychain by its mouth. It's really neat. He's got some really cool stuff. He's got some amazing dragons, um, which seems to be the hoopla today. Um, but if you check out mythicprintmasters.com, he does custom orders. So if you see something you want in a specific color or there's something, he'll look for it. He's very happy to help. He's really cool. He's my brother. Um, the other thing I want to say, that's mythicprintmasters.com for anybody that didn't catch that. You can also catch him on TikTok and Instagram as well. He's super responsive. Um, the other thing I want to mention is our merch.
Oh
So
yeah, which neither
yeah,
of us are wearing tonight. Don't
I
come
know. I'm
for
wearing my
us.
Rosa Parks shirt. Yeah, I'm wearing my Rosa Parks shirt.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair. That's fair.
yeah, it's it's the like Rosa Parks. I also have a Harriet Tubman because Harriet Tubman's my favorite historical figure. It just says
Um,
"We Out."
how is she not anyone's favorite?
I know. I really want to find a Frederick Douglass one. I was just talking about this earlier today. I want to find a Frederick Douglass one because I love this style of shirt because it's very like basic and I like that. But I love Frederick Douglass.
So we
Also
just
from my
need
area.
to. Now we just need to design a historical figures line of clothing. Is what you're saying?
I could probably do that. But this, I didn't design this. This came from somebody who thought of it before I did, and credit where credit is due. Um, However,
You
our
know.
merch is available, thrivinginchaos.printful.me. What were we gonna say?
Oh, it just dawned on me that Martin Luther King's initials backwards were my maiden initials forwards.
Oh, that's
Like
funny.
he's he's MLK, I'm K. I was KLM before marriage.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but you're not a junior. Anyways, and then if
I
you
could
catch us at one
be.
of the conventions, we're going to, but I know that you're not. We will have these on us. They are our little wristbands, Thriving in Chaos. They do say beware of the dead. They glow in the dark. I just found this out yesterday. I did not know that when I bought them. I think that
Ooh.
I read that and just totally forgot about that. But they glow in the dark, which is really cool. So of course my kids are in love. Um, so if you catch us at a convention, we will be at Scarefest as spectators in October, and then we will be at the Paracon in West Virginia, and we will have those. I also got our bags. I haven't opened the box yet, so I have no idea what they look like. I hope that they look amazing. I designed them. They looked amazing when I did it. So I'm really hoping that they look amazing. So all of the t-shirts, cups, everything like that can be found thrivinginchaos.printful.me. The bags and wristbands will be available at the convention in West Virginia. The wristbands, if you catch us walking around, stop us, check out a wristband. We'll give you one.
For sure.
Yeah, that's all I got.
And
That was a lot. I feel like sorry, everybody.
it was. We literally had like 10 hours of boring business stuff to get out of the way, but
I know.
now we can bring the party from the back.
I like it.
I'm telling you, we're like a permanent mullet now. Like we got
Oh
business in the
gosh.
front, party in the back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let's get that stuff out of the way
speak,
so we can do the fun stuff.
speaking of the party in the back, our guest today is a little bit of a change pace for most people, although not entirely. So our guest today is
The double
actually,
sided.
yes, he's double sided. He is movies and true crime. We have a
Yeah,
law enforcement
absolutely.
agent turned movie director. Who knew?
Yeah.
So, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Mr. Michael Rock.
Hey, I'm
Hey,
the party
Mike.
in the back. Hello there.
Ah, yes, the party has arrived. The champ
Yeah.
is here. No, nobody tell John Cena I said that, though. Just saying. We can see him.
Can we
Although,
though?
I don't know. He's doing some pretty covert missions up in here. Maybe we can't see him.
I was gonna say you just said he's here and I don't see him on the show. Just
You
saying.
never know. You never know. So, Michael, for anybody at home who may not know you, why don't you tell our viewers a little about yourself?
Man, already.
Where do we start in the novel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm a former U.S. Army Green Beret. I medically retired in 2014. I'm 100% disabled. During my retirement process, I got recruited into what I do now. which is taking down pedophiles and saving kids for a 3-letter agency. So I do computer forensics and child sexual exploitation cases. So
I'm sorry. Can we just get a round of applause for this man? Like
I know,
a
seriously.
moment, maybe a moment of silence, something like, woo!
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you for making our lives better.
Yeah. So I've been doing
Protecting
that.
our children.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a rough job. You know, I've been doing it for about 11 years. Every day at work, I have to see just horrible things, true life horror stuff, and it just destroys my mind. You know,
You're like your own episode of SVU.
yeah, it's very rough. So what I do to kind of balance that out is I'll take myself away from the computer sometimes, and I'll go to schools or churches or people's houses, or give presentations like via Zoom on advanced internet safety. And I like to put myself out there as kind of like a lifeline. If somebody runs into some trouble with, you know, their kid being sexually exploited or something like that, or they themselves are exploited as well, they can reach out to me. I'm not going to shake my finger at anybody. I'm not going to put the blame on the victim. I just want people to be safe and get the help that they need. And because of that, I actually have, you know, cases nationwide that have come from just people reaching out saying, "Hey, Mike, I need some help," you know, and I point them in the right direction and I get the stuff that they need. But again, because this job, it kind of destroys my mind, I needed a different sort of balance. So what I started doing was running these ruck marches for this company called Go Ruck, and I did that for about 5 years. And basically, all the cadre, all the instructors in Go Ruck are current or former military special operations. So you got Green Berets, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, stuff like that, and they take civilians out and teach them things like survival skills, spycraft, military history, and then also just intense physical endurance stuff. So 100-pound sandbags, going for 12 miles, or I'm sorry, going for 12 hours, you know, covering like 20, 25 miles, stuff like that. And that was giving me the balance I needed. But again, I'm 100% disabled. So after a while, I couldn't do it anymore.
Mhm.
You know,
Takes a toll.
That's understandable.
because of all the injuries I sustained in the Army. About a year and a half ago, I got 2-level spinal fusion. And so,
Ooh.
so I retired.
Ew. No.
yeah.
Ow.
Yeah. So I retired from doing the ruck marches, but again, I still needed that balance. So I decided to get into acting. And so I first tried my hand at stage acting in a place outside of Reno, where I'm at right now, called Virginia City. And I acted in 3 plays and I loved it, but it also took up all my personal time. So I decided to leave that and try movies. And so I met my buddy Dylan Brown, and he was auditioning for a role of a mercenary for his movie called The Flock. And I was like, well, shoot, I was kind of that in real life, so let me go audition for that. And I got the role, and we hit it off great. And he asked me to come back and help him direct a movie called Tahoe Joe. It's about a Bigfoot in the Sierra Nevada mountains. There's actually
wow.
2. Yeah, there's actually Tahoe Joe 1 and Tahoe Joe 2. We're getting ready to film Tahoe Joe 3 in May.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
to finish off the trilogy.
That's
And
awesome.
that's been our biggest hit. But you know, co-directing Tahoe Joe, it gave me a taste for directing, and I really liked it. And so there was a short horror film competition, and I wanted to do something special with my stepdaughter Willow. And so I asked her if she wanted to make a short horror movie with me. And so we entered, and I just had a cell phone, and we made this short horror movie called My Willow, and it ended up winning Audience Choice and Best Bad Guy. And I really liked it, you know. And so since then, I've just been bouncing between acting and directing and co-directing. So I have a couple movies out right now. So it's been a wild adventure.
Which do you like better, directing or acting?
I like directing. Yeah. Acting is very fun. You know, I get to become a completely different character. You know, sometimes I'm more or less a different kind of a different version of my true self. But then other times, you know, I've played a Nazi. I've played
That has to be
Uh,
hard.
I've played like monsters and stuff like that, so that's very fun. But with directing, because I'm completely low budget, so
Mhm,
my movies are all self-funded.
mhm.
So
Oh,
I buy my own equipment, I do my own editing and my own props and
wow.
like paying actors that comes out of my pocket and stuff like that.
He's the one man show.
I am, yeah, yeah.
Seriously,
You're
yeah.
like a whole ass army all by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And you just have more satisfaction, because now
Yeah, it's
as the
yours.
director and everything else, whatever my vision is, I can ensure that vision comes to reality.
Right.
And so that's why I like directing, because I have a vision in my head and I make it reality.
That kind of goes back to what I said last week on our show. Um, that like when you're a kid, you like the things that like your parents buy or you get for presents, but like you don't appreciate it until you buy it
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you saying you appreciate your productions more because you did it all yourself,
Mhm.
it
That
makes
makes
it
more
mean a
sense,
lot
yeah.
more. And it's
Yes.
basically your own legacy that you're leaving behind in the world. Like nobody else can say you wouldn't have that if it wasn't for me.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I come up with the ideas and put pen to paper and cast and shoot and, everything, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It could be stressful, especially when a movie comes out, how people are gonna take it.
Mhm.
For example, I made a found footage, thriller on domestic violence,
Mhm.
because I realized that as a filmmaker, I not only have the power just to make films that entertain people, but I also have the power to make films to, uh, bring
Matter.
awareness and change and stuff like that, bring attention to very important issues. And of
Right.
course, domestic violence is a very important issue. So when I was making that one, it was very hard to make, because of the subject matter, and so many people
Mhm.
have dealt with it or currently dealing with it or will deal with it in the future. And I didn't want to look like I was kind of glorifying domestic violence and trying to make a buck off of domestic violence.
Mhm.
So
It's gotta be really hard to do too.
You
yeah,
don't want to profit from other people's pain,
exactly. Yeah,
essentially.
Absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So when I
What a
went in
delicate
making the
balance.
movie, I was in a mindset, and I'm still in a mindset, like, if the movie makes no money, but it helps just one person, then it's a complete
Yeah,
success.
absolutely.
And that movie started helping people out even before it was released. Some of the
Mhm.
actors involved and some people that actually knew that the movie was being made. They knew this movie was being made, so now they wanted to talk about it. And there was even a news story released here in Reno on a local news. I think it played 4 or 5 times. And the movie premiered during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So
Oh, wow.
the movie premiered in October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Right.
So it
Wow.
was pretty amazing.
It actually reminds me of another documentary. Have you guys ever heard of Angela Shelton?
Mm-mm.
I
So what she did,
Mm-mm.
she was actually an SA survivor victim, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was her father and her brother that abused her. So what she did to cope with her pain, instead of, I mean, she went down the rabbit hole too, if I remember correctly, but then she got to a point where she was like, okay, I can't do this to myself anymore. I have to learn how to heal and move on. So she ended up making a documentary, and don't quote me on the title. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I think it's Searching for Angela Shelton or The Search for Angela Shelton, something along those lines. And what she did was I don't I don't know if she like looked it up online or she used like a phone book, but she searched the throughout the US for other women with her name, Angela Shelton. And out of those women, so many of them were also SA survivors
Wow.
Wow.
in similar situations. So she went on a whole tour to raise awareness of, because back in those days it was very taboo. People just swept those things
Mhm.
under the rug. They didn't throw it out there for the public to see. Nobody wanted to air their dirty laundry back then.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, this is like late 90s maybe, so we're not quite as evolved as we are today.
Yeah.
But if I went to the Library of Congress, I think she debuted her documentary, and I was actually there and got to watch it. And just to see how many people went through the same thing she went through, it kind of reminds you of like how I don't know the exact statistic, but they say that like at least 1 out of 4 women or something along those lines have been victims of some form of abuse in their lifetime.
Mhm.
So it's always, on the one hand, it's good to raise the awareness, but on the other hand, it's a sad thought that we even have to raise awareness for
Right.
things like this. And
Yes.
it's crazy, and it kind of goes, and the thing is, I kind of want to, I'm the kind of person, like, we typically see women as the victims, but nobody ever really talks about men who could be victims.
Exactly. You never hear
It
about men.
happens. I don't even know if it
So
happens
much.
less. I don't even know if it happens less than women. It's just not okay to talk about for guys.
But
You
you
know
know
what
what's
I
funny
mean?
about that is it's like it's almost socially acceptable for a woman to, at this point, to come out and be
Yes.
like, I was abused and here's how, but men still get ridiculed, but men are just as abused as women. And I think that that's
Yeah.
really sad that you're looked at as less manly if you were abused. It can happen to literally anybody. And I
Well,
know we talked a little bit backstage about how, like, why didn't you just leave? When you're the man in that situation, that has to be even harder
you
to be like, why
definitely
didn't you
don't
just leave?
want to admit to that.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, like, and you know what? People can come for me for this opinion. I really don't care at this point. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's my show. So you don't like it, you know where the delete button is. But in my opinion, when it comes to men being the victims, it's not okay for them to admit that they are victims in the first place. Secondly, men are not allowed to fight back in our society. You know what I
No.
mean? Like, women we have this idea that we are just allowed to wail on this guy as much as we want, and he can't touch
You
us,
can't do
or
anything about it.
he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And my opinion is, I don't agree with feminism because they want to pick and choose which parts of equality they like.
That's
So I
actually
don't
not
agree with that.
true. It's not
Certain
completely
ones.
true. I was gonna say, if
It's
like
not
a true
completely true, but for
feminist
the
would be
most
like,
part,
it needs to be equal on both sides.
right.
Right.
But there's a lot of these so-called feminists. I'm not going to say diehard feminists would be that way.
It's a little,
But there's
it's
the
a little
ones
too
on the
heavy on one
surface.
side.
They want to pick and
Yeah.
choose which parts apply. They want
Right.
they want the equal pay. They want the equal rights. But like when it comes to war,
But not when it
even
comes to
war,
something like that.
but like look at a situation like Titanic where they were like, let's get the women and children off first, you know? They don't want to die
Yeah.
with the boat. They want to be
Nobody
the one
wants
on
to
that
die.
lifeboat.
Right.
They want to be the one
Right.
on the lifeboat. But if we were equal, then it should have been men and women on the boats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But instead, it was all women that got saved and like one guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
And like, you know, they're also the ones that are like, well, I'm gonna hit you, but don't you dare hit me back. No, my opinion, if you're gonna hit me like a man, then take it back like one. And I'm a woman, so it's okay. I can say that.
I can say that because I'm a woman.
He probably, but see, that's the thing. He could not say that. He could not. He could not say that. He could not be like, yeah, if some girl came up and hit me, I'm gonna hit her ass back. No, because then he would get canceled. But because I'm a woman, I can be like, I'm gonna go hit this guy, and he can't do shit to me. And everybody's gonna be like, oh yeah, girl, you got him, you got him. Yeah, no.
We shouldn't go around hitting anybody anyways. Stop.
Yeah, but
stop
let's face
fighting
it,
your
most of
fights
us
with your
choose
fingers
violence.
and your appendages. Yeah, but stop handling your business with your body. Like, discuss things. Like, it's really not that hard to be like, hey, this bothers me.
Exactly.
From a parenting perspective, anyways. Constantly.
Obviously, we don't endorse violence, but it happens. We can't
does
pretend
happen.
it doesn't. You know, not everybody has the self-control to be like, well, you made me angry and this is why. Most people
Yeah.
are like, you made me angry, now you gonna die.
And you know what? You actually, so I'm not stopping you, but I'm also stopping you. You said something earlier about how that woman in the 90s, it was like hushed under the rug, like the abuse situation and everything, and how nobody ever talked about it. I have a family member who I'm not going to mention by title or name, but I have a family member who was abused. And when they brought it up, it was always, oh, that's a family matter. And we're talking in like the 70s, 60s, 70s. No one knew it was happening.
Oh,
Other members of the
yeah.
family didn't know it was happening. And that person, their entire adult life, had to deal with it in ways they thought they had dealt with it, but they had all these coping mechanisms um, that were completely unhealthy. Completely unhealthy. So, sorry, this is a tangent. So, just if you're in a
That's because
situation and you
people back in
have
those days
a way to
didn't
get
have the
out or a way
studies
to get
we have
help,
now.
please take those things.
Yeah,
Well, exactly.
people
Well, and
back
there's
in
no
that day,
support. There was no support.
well, there wasn't support because people thought that, you know, they didn't realize the impact of things back then. Like, you
Mhm.
know,
Long
that was
term.
during the war time, so you were expected to take the draft and go to war at 18, and the women were working in factories to cover for the men, but typically their place was in the kitchen at home raising kids. So,
Right.
and back in those days, there was no safe spaces. There was no let's talk about this. It was
Well,
suck it up and deal with it. And they
and
didn't realize that the impact, they didn't have the psychology then that we have now, where studies have
right.
shown what happens in early infancy
Mhm.
dictates the rest of your life if you let it.
Exactly. Well, and a lot of
They
a
thought,
lot of those situations that were older too is the shell shock, which we now know as PTSD,
yeah.
really affected a lot of people, and now we have treatment for that. Not to say that that clears a lot of the issues, but I do think that that led to a lot of those situations and a lot of the repercussions we still have to this day.
What are your thoughts, Mike? Since you know
Sorry,
we kind of cut the
we
guest out of
dominated
the
for a minute there.
conversation. It's the ADHD,
The person who's clearly
man.
experienced with this.
No, I'm just
Like,
just letting you run off on your tangent there.
sorry.
It's the ADHD brains, man. We get going and we don't shut up. So
Yeah.
why
Well,
don't
so
you weigh in?
you know, these days that's why it's so important to talk about it, you know, bring awareness. You know, you got public figures, men that are talking about things that they've gone through, you know, their abuse by their girlfriend or whoever, you know, and it's so important because the more we talk about it as men, the more men out there are like, wow, you know what? It's okay to talk about, right? Because for so long, you know, again, I'm 45. Back in the day, God, man, a man talks about being abused by his woman, and they are ridiculed. Nobody's
Absolutely.
taking the guy's side. They're calling him a chump and everything like that, you know. And
You
that's
can't even
Vamp-
comfortably call the cops, man.
yeah. You know, same thing with men showing emotions, you know. So that's why, like, I've seen, you know, nowadays you see like some of the most toughest guys out there, you know, and they'll do an interview and they'll talk about something traumatic or very sad in their life and they'll cry. And I love that because it shows that
Mhm.
you just because you cry doesn't mean you're not tough. You know, it's okay to
Exactly.
show emotions and express
Right.
yourself and stuff like that because you know, I saw something as far as a dad goes, right? So as far as like holding in emotions and stuff like that, like no matter what happens, a dad is expected to say, I'll take care of it. Right. So the dad could be having the worst time at work. He could be going through this, he could be going through that, dealing with this at home, this at home, this at home, and he gets thrown all this stuff. And because he's a man, he's expected to just say, I'll take care of it and keep quiet, keep his emotions to himself, not talk about anything, and just go handle business. You know, and it's like that. That guys, man, it puts us in just such a huge depression. And I'm it's happened to me too. You know, because I want to be the protector. I want to be the helper. I want people to be able to rely on me. There's so many times where I completely disregarded my own mental health, my own well-being, because I'm trying to help other people, because I'm not trying to look weak and say, I'm sorry, I can't handle this right now. I need to work on myself, and I keep quiet and I just keep on driving forward until, you keep driving the machine without proper maintenance and it's going to break down.
Uh-huh.
And
Exactly.
so many men have broken down and they've taken their lives and, or just had complete meltdowns and stuff like that.
I feel like that right there is exactly why a lot of relationships fail and why a lot of men just up and disappear quietly,
Yeah.
because they can't talk about their problems and they're overwhelmed. And instead of communicating that to their partner, they may be afraid of what the partner's how they're going to react, or, they just can't handle their reaction because of the stress that they're already under. They can't add any more to it. So they just up and walk out because they can't take it. And their partner never gets an answer why. But I feel like it's that because they're not allowed to talk about how they feel.
Yeah.
They just have to, they're expected to be the breadwinner and the provider. And, the women are, even now in society, like, you can't really survive on a one income home unless you're famous.
Nope.
So,
And even then
it's a stretch. Cause I don't know about you, but like, I'm an influencer and I get 40,000 views and make $10. So, unless you're constantly getting millions of views, you're not going anywhere with social media. You know what I mean? You may be one of the lucky percent that it takes care of you for your entire life, but most of you are not. Most of us will never make it to the big leagues, and we know this. For us, it's a love job. It's not a paycheck. We do this because we want to, not to survive, obviously, because it's not guaranteed. You could be loved today and hated tomorrow.
Yeah.
Although ironically, it's the hate that gets you paid more than the love.
Yeah.
That's
weirdly.
So
But I feel like this is why a lot of relationships fail, because they just can't talk about it. And, yeah. Guys are
I also want to say, Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because on that same note, like, a lot of the relationships fail because a lot of times, at least what I have experienced, is men seem to think that the easiest emotion to feel is anger. But I feel like men see that as the only emotion they're allowed to express. So I think a lot of emotion that they feel turns into anger because it's the only socially acceptable emotion for men. So it comes out as anger, even if that's not really what it is, because anger could be grief, anger could be just depression, it could be sadness, it could be anything. But because it's so easy to feel, number one, it is the easiest. Number two, I think it's because it's the most socially acceptable for men. That's really how it manifests, and that's a relationship ruiner too. But that also feeds into the domestic violence. Like, you have these big feelings and you don't know how to get them out. So without the correct therapy or the correct, way to actually manage your emotions, it comes out in ways that you will end up regretting at the end. Sorry.
That actually leads me to a question for you, Michael, because I need a guy's perspective on this, because this has been bothering me for so long, and like, I just don't know who to ask the question to. So I'm gonna ask it to you and the rest of America.
Hopefully
at this point.
Hopefully I can
leave your answers in the comments, because I want these opinions. Okay. Going back to the topic of relationships, I feel like, sometimes when babies come along, you're unmarried, and a lot, like, I don't know about anybody else, but my family was one of those, strict, don't have kids unless you're married kind of people. So for kids that are born to parents who aren't married, my great grandmother, God love her, may her soul rest in peace, if she heard of like anybody I knew or anybody we knew that was like pregnant out of wedlock, she'd be like, well, are you sure the father's going to stick around? So my question is, here's the question, because I see this so much these days. Guys will be in a relationship with you, right? And I know that, certain things aren't for everybody. That's not the point I'm trying to get at here. I'm not like pushing marriage in anybody's face. Obviously everybody has a preference. It works for some, it doesn't for others. But what I want to know is how guys can be committed to you in a relationship and they will give you children, but they absolutely refuse to marry you because that's too much of a commitment. So you can have a whole ass child with me, which is a lifetime commitment, but you can't put a ring on my finger.
Yeah. From my point of view, what I can say with that is, so you can have a child with somebody, like for example, so I'm 0-2 in marriage, so I'm not the best at relationships. But
Same.
my kid's mom, I have 3 grown children. We have the parenting, we had the parenting plans and stuff like that, but then we got to live our own lives and stuff. And actually, when I moved to Nevada, all 3 lived with me, so she was giving me child support. But aside from that, like what she did in her own life, was whatever. What I did was whatever. You can co-parent with somebody, and yeah, that person will still be in your life in a certain aspect, right? But if you get married with somebody, especially if you get married over a long period of time, if you're married like 10 years and stuff, for the guy, man, if something happens, you get divorced. Like, I know people who have gotten divorced that their wives have gotten like 80% of their pension, because stuff like that. Crazy lopsided stuff.
My ex-husband, everything in our divorce, so I feel their pain. He got my house, my cars, my dogs, my shit.
Yeah. So being married, they go in knowing they're getting married, knowing that if something goes wrong in the future, especially way down the line, they can lose it all. And that is scary, because there's people out there who have worked 20, 30, 40 years and have lost just about everything because they got divorced. And for some reason, it's swayed in the woman's favor. It's like, well, I got to pay my ex-wife, $3,000 a month in alimony. It's stuff like that, because like the ex-wife is a living human adult.
She can go get a job, go do your own thing.
Wants to get a damn job. Like, why am I paying her for nothing? Like, sure, we were married. Maybe she didn't get a career. If I told her not to get a career, just stay home with the kids,
that's different.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's different. That's on me. I held her down, stuff like that. But if I didn't say that, I know married couples right now that the husband is struggling, working extra jobs, moving away from people, stuff like that, moving away from families and working all this extra, and the wife does nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Nope. and like, and the husband doesn't want to, the husbands, they don't want to create that tension between them and the wife. So they don't want to say, honey, kids are grown, they're out of the house, it's time to get a damn job.
Right.
You're 40 years old. It's time to get your ass up off the couch and
go do something.
Go do something. Get yourself a career.
That right there is a cheaper situation.
So you can't use, I got to stay home and watch the kids as an excuse anymore. But they don't want to create that tension. They don't want that fight. They don't want that conflict, right? Because now the wife might say, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to divorce you.
Right.
And because I stayed home with these kids for 18 years.
Now you owe me.
And you worked. Well, now you owe me. So now
I'm
going to get half your stuff and I'm going to get alimony.
Do you know what's
So
crazy?
and guys know this, and it freaking terrifies them.
Yeah.
Terrifies, and rightfully so, because you have women. My second wife sucked. All right. So
Mhm.
we were married for a year. I caught her in an affair. I tossed her to the curb, and she didn't sign the divorce papers. Right. So I had to sue her and take her to court. And we got to court, and the judge said, "Hey, he has the divorce decree in his hand right now, ready to sign. I don't know what you want because you didn't do any of the paperwork. You had this paperwork for months. Why didn't you do
Mhm.
any of the paperwork?" And she replies with, "Oh, because I suffered severe PTSD." Right? Because I caught her in an affair and I tossed her out. There was no domestic violence or anything like that.
Right.
And the judge said, it was a female judge, and she said, "Okay, well, again, he has the decree in his hands right now. What's it going to take for you to divorce him?" Your Honor, I want alimony and half of his things. We were married a year.
That's insane.
Thankfully, the judge laughed at her.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
That's
Uh,
insane.
long story short, in the end, I got divorced. She walked away with a whopping $500. I gave
Oh
her
my
500.
gosh.
Yeah, because the thing is, she didn't do any of the paperwork, so she was going to have to
Mhm.
come back. The judge was like, "Look, if you don't agree to this $500, you're going to come back with all the paperwork, and then you're going to have to pay his attorney's fees, which is $300 an hour."
Right.
And
Yeah.
she didn't have a job, she didn't make a career for herself, nothing, and that was her choice, you know. And yeah, so stuff like that, like
Yeah,
that's
that's
after
terrifying from a male
year.
perspective,
That's
yeah.
after a year, man, wanting half of my stuff and alimony after a year. So imagine some of these guys who are with these women, that these women, like, they literally don't want to go out and have a career of their own,
Yeah.
regardless if they have kids together or not. Some of these people, they don't even have kids. They just want
Yeah.
to stay home, and these guys know this. And of course, that is not a blanket statement against all wives or
No,
anything like
no.
that.
Mm-mm.
Definitely not. But there are some very evil people out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
Well,
sure.
it's worth
And the guys
mentioning
know
too.
it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning too, like, before you marry someone, male, woman, non-binary, I don't care. Before you marry literally anybody, get a prenup, no matter your situation, because if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't, the state
yeah,
has one and you're subject to that as well. Get
yeah.
it in writing, get the prenup. Like, that's
Mhm.
what you have to do. And I don't care what the situation is because it shouldn't be like that. Like you said, you were married a year. She's not entitled to anything. And anything you built before you were together, like, why would she be eligible for that? That's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
saw a video the other day, and I think I sent it to my partner, and, like, we have no desire to get married, either one of us. Um, but it would be the same thing where it's like we would get a prenup because I don't want anything he has, he doesn't want anything I have. Like, it's just not worth it. But that way you can just cut and dry. This is it and we're done. Um, but neither one of us want that anyways. But the he had money. He had built a business far before they were together, and he was like bringing up the prenup. I want this, and she's like, "Well, it just makes me feel like you don't love me." It is not about that. It is about a protection of your finances. And you can write it into the prenup. If we get divorced, this is what you get. Like, I will give you this if we get divorced.
Yeah.
But you have to negotiate ahead of time. It is
Mm.
like in no situation do I think that it's appropriate to not have that prearranged.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
And you
Yeah.
know what those lead to?
What?
What was that?
Murder.
I mean, they
I'm
could.
not joking.
However,
I am not joking. I'm not joking. Like,
but you know
if
what? You know
he-
what
if
leads
he
to murder
really
in that
had
situation,
some-
anyways?
I
Is
mean,
bad spouses, like
mean,
horrible
yeah.
people.
yes,
like, that's what
horrible
that leads
people,
to.
but that I mean, people marry horrible people.
Yeah,
They put that
well, and you don't know
mask
somebody's
on.
terrible beforehand. Yeah,
Yeah.
Not
Well, I mean,
always.
with that said,
Sometimes you
though,
do, but not always.
with that said, though, yeah, sometimes extreme rare occasions, sure, that'll lead to murder or whatever. But what could also lead to murder is not doing a prenup, and
right.
Yeah.
and one of the two, whether the man or the woman or whoever, they're going through some stuff and they're afraid to get out. They're afraid that if they leave,
Mhm.
that they will have nothing. And so it becomes so bad that they know, well, my spouse has a $500,000 life insurance policy.
Exactly.
Let me figure some stuff out.
Right. Let
Or
me
they
go
take those
call, make some phone
policies out. I'm not gonna lie. My ex used to piss me off so much. I thought about it. Like it would be so easy, just buy a Black Widow and pop it right on his face. Never happened. Just an idea. But my philosophy on marriage is I'm not going to take what I didn't help you get. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like my husband has a large inheritance. If we broke up tomorrow, I'm not entitled to any of that just because we were married. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take any of that from him. If he was like, hey, this isn't working, we got to go our separate ways, here's your cut. Okay, I'm cool with that. Whatever.
Yeah. See,
But I didn't help
you're a
him
decent
get
person.
that.
Yeah.
But if we, if like right now, this business that Stella and I are working on, if we became big from this show, then, and he and I split up, then I feel he would be entitled to half of the compensation for the show. Number one, because we obtained the wealth while we were together. And number two, he's been kind of helping with a majority of the finances of what we've been doing. Because I currently have no income while I'm waiting for disability to come through. So he's basically been the one financing all my little escapades. So that would make him entitled to whatever I make. Even though he's a silent partner and he's not right here on camera doing the job every day, he's still doing his part behind the scenes. Not only has he been financing us, but he also takes care of me as a person,
Right.
So I feel like he would be entitled to whatever I made off of this.
Yeah, he's basically your executive producer of the show.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is
and so that makes sense. That makes sense. It's just the big thing is there are just the world is filled with
terrible people.
I
And
swear.
it. You see it all the time. Yeah, you can
world
swear.
is cruel.
The world is filled
is
with
cruel.
scumbags, like my ex-wife, who everything that I acquired in my life, like none of that was from her. Again, so we were together for a year, engaged for a year, married for a year. So like all of my stuff I acquired on my own, and then she wants half.
Yeah.
And
He's like, why does the me always have to be in the we?
So she gets married again? Get the hell out of here, And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the world is filled with people like that. So that's that's what gives men cold feet,
Yeah.
And
That's a
then you
good
get
point,
these
though,
guys-
too. Like,
You get some guys that are like that, where they're like, oh, I stand to lose all this, this, and this, and never want to get married. And then you got these guys to get married every other week.
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Drop
Yeah.
one to
And
marry another.
And they're paying alimony to a bunch of women.
Yeah.
You know what? Not that he's paying alimony or anything, but Nick Cannon, man, let that man, he needs to cut his cannon off at this point. He has so many kids.
Yeah. The thing is, all of his baby's mamas are now rich. So it's
Yeah,
like,
but
you know
I
what?
don't
But you know what? That
I
works for
wanna
understand where
them.
he's
be rich.
coming from.
I
He's
wanna
not
be
that
rich.
big anymore.
I want to
That-
be rich.
that-
Let me go get impregnated by Nick Cannon.
Yeah. I mean, but that
I've
works
thought
for
about
them.
it. Hell,
You do your thing. Like, whatever works for you and your family. I would never yuck somebody's yum, but I don't know how they do it.
I mean, I'm not knocking it, but damn, at that point, who the hell are they going to marry? Because by the time they're 20, they're going to be related to half the population.
Yeah.
By the time his kids are having kids, there won't be anybody left for his kids to be with.
He's the modern day Genghis Khan.
Oh my God, I was gonna say the same thing. He's Genghis Khan of the 2000s. Like,
Oh, that reminds
in
me
a
of.
couple thousand years, everybody's gonna be related to Nick Cannon. They'll be like, "Who is this guy?"
I mean, my God, my father alone. Well, not my father, my sperm donor, will say, because he was never a father to me. He was in jail whatever part of my life, and then he died there in prison. But God forbid I go overseas, especially to the Vietnam area. I'm literally probably related to half the population by now, because he has 19 kids over there somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Well, 18. No, 17. There's 17 of them over there. 2 of us are here in the States. But like I have
Oh my
19
God.
siblings from that man, and only one of them were with his wife. And it
Jeez.
wasn't my mother. Just
That's
saying,
wild.
I'm a bastard too. I'm the youngest of them all that I know of.
Yeah. Who knows when that stopped?
I mean, he went to prison in 91 and he died in 2000. So who's to
That's fair.
say? I could be the youngest. I could find out years later there's 20 more of us out there. But seriously, like I can't even go overseas or I'm going to run into somebody I'm related to and I'm not even going to know it. Like, thank God I'm married now, but
I met my dad when I was 40. And
Oh, wow.
because I did an ancestry DNA thing. And all I knew about my dad was what my mom told me, just a bunch of garbage stuff. And so I was like, I wonder what I am. So I did an ancestry DNA, and then I got matched up with a bunch of people. And I found out what I was. I'm just like, I'm ultra white. Is pretty much what I am.
Yeah. I have a sprinkle of
ultra
pepper.
white.
No
Mayo
spice.
sandwich.
Yeah, no spice in those mashed potatoes. There's,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a Heinz 57. I'm full of
Yeah.
spices.
but
Which one you want? Hit me
My
up.
friend
I
said a
got you,
mayonnaise
man.
sandwich. I'm a mayonnaise sandwich with a sprinkle of pepper, so I get it.
But so I went from knowing I was one of one to being the oldest of 7 overnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so 7 kids, 5 baby mamas.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Are you in contact with them?
a couple of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, a couple of
That's
them.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and then so I got to know my dad for 4 years. He passed away like was it last June or July?
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
of cancer. Thanks. Yeah, I went out there for a week and stuff, and yeah, he had a heart attack, and
Oh,
then
God.
through the testing, they saw like his
Oh my
lung
God.
was just filled with
Everybody
cancer.
around me is dying from freaking heart problems.
Yeah, so
I
yeah,
have
they
heart problems, and ever
all his
since I've
lung
had
cancer
them,
and stuff.
everyone around me is dying from them.
Yeah. So, but you know, you got to learn
Power
about
of Christ
me, and
compels you.
you got to see how I live. You know, I flew him. You know, I met him in Massachusetts, where I'm originally from,
Oh, cool.
and we hit it off. You know, he apologized to me. He was like, Mike, you can beat me up if you want to. And I was like, nah, man. Like, thank you for being garbage, because if you were in my life, I would turn out like I did. So
Right.
thank you. It's like, I
Yeah,
love my,
absolutely. Yeah.
you know.
Very
And
much.
so once he saw there's no hard feelings, it took a big weight off his shoulder. I
Yeah.
flew him out to Nevada. I introduced him to my kids. I took them to Lake Tahoe and took them all around, gave them a grand tour. It was cool. You know, we got to hang out a few other times. You know, I brought him over here a couple of times. I went over there, and it was good
I'm
stuff.
glad you finally got that. Like, that's amazing. I'm glad you guys got that chance. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people don't get it.
yeah. And you know, I forgave him. You know, I saw, and the reason I could have actually met him 2 years prior than what I did, but all I knew was the bad stuff, you know. And
Right.
then when I heard from a sister that he started to change his life and he was helping people out and stuff like that, doing a lot of solid things, I was like, okay, cool. It's like, see
Oh,
if he wants
that's
to meet me.
great.
He said, yeah, of course. You know, and I forgave him. I was like, yeah, you were a different person way back in the day, and you know, you're making a change. You're obviously, you're not just saying you're a changed person. I see that you're doing all
Right.
these things with no ulterior motive. You know, so you're
Right.
obviously changing and trying to be better. So I forgive you for whatever garbage you did back then. Let's go have a good time.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm
That's
really
actually
glad that you
very
guys were able to do
mature.
that. Yeah.
That's a very mature way of looking at things, because like I was that way for a long time, where I didn't get mad, I got even. But now in my older age, you know, I've been on my deathbed for the past 2 years now, so I'm just kind of like, you know what, life's too fucking short. Who cares?
Yeah.
I have learned through experience and drama and trauma. I've got plenty of it, a whole lifetime worth. But I've learned through all of that, you know, nobody else is going to tell me what I'm worth. You know what I mean? For a
Yes.
long time, I let everybody else determine how valuable I was. But now, in my selfish error, I am understanding what value I have to bring to the table, where previously I didn't think I had any.
Mhm.
But now I'm kind of coming into my own a little bit because near-death experiences do that to you. But now my philosophy in life is I don't care about the opinions of people who do nothing for me. You know, when
Mhm.
people have negative comments to say to me now, I'm just like, you know what? If I wanted the opinion of an asshole, I would have just farted. Like, for real. If
I
you're
just
not paying my bills, taking care of me, or putting the roof over my head, clothes on my back, you do nothing for me. So why does your opinion matter to me?
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
call that selfish, but those are boundaries, and they are very good ones.
Yeah. So back in the day, I was very salty at the world. When I came back from deployment, my body shut down and it hit me hard. I got told I couldn't do my Green Beret stuff anymore. And that is what I was good at, and that's what I loved. I worked very hard to do that. And so that hit me hard, and I started popping pills and I had a lot of rage and all this other stuff, and just I was always pissed off and angry. Um and I
Been
came
there,
to,
done that.
yeah, I came to do this job, and then eventually, maybe like a year into this job, I don't know, something just clicked in me. And I just stopped and took a look around, and I realized like all this bad stuff had led to amazing things.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, for example, like, man, my senior prom in high school, I was stood up by my girlfriend,
Oh,
and I found her at
Mm.
her
how
ex-boyfriend's.
rude.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
I went to the prom and I met this other girl who had just dumped her boyfriend like a week prior, and we hit it off, right? And so we started dating, and it was like the first non-trashy girl I've ever dated. And her
You didn't
dad,
know what to do with yourself, did you?
yeah, yeah, her dad was in the army, so that's where I first learned about the army.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so then a couple years later, I was just hating life. I was living in the ghetto and stuff like that, and just
I'm
hating
from the
life.
ghetto.
And then it just clicked about what he told me about the army, and so I went on a website and I saw a tank. That was my first job in the army. It said, "Do you want to explore an M1 tank?" I was like, "Hell yeah!"
Who
And so I
wouldn't?
joined the army. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
want
so
to
then
explore that.
Absolutely.
And so as a tanker, I went to Iraq, and then once I was in Iraq, I saw a helicopter come down, and Green Berets got out, and I was like, "Wow, those guys are freaking rock stars." You know what I'm saying? And so like all these like bad things, it all led to something. Eventually, I went down with injuries, but now I take down pedophiles.
Yeah.
Which led me to making movies, which led me to
Yeah.
making a movie. It's called The Murder of the Monster, about domestic violence that has helped women that have been in abusive situations.
Right.
So it's like all this bad stuff has just led to so many amazing things. So it's like, so I'm not angry at the world anymore. If something bad happens, I mean, it stings, but
Mhm.
eventually just kind of rub some dirt on it, drink some Robitussin, and just freaking move on.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
eventually, like sometime down the road, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, "Wow, that sucked." But what came from that? Oh my God!
All these things, all
There's
these
All
always
things.
these
a
things,
positive.
all
There's
these
always a
amazing
positive.
things.
But it's
Always a positive.
amazing the pieces of those people in your past that you carry through the rest of your life, like that young lady's dad, like, it's just like a small little nugget, like a small little moment, like in the blink of an eye, everything
Yeah,
changed and you didn't even know it at the time.
yeah,
It's amazing how those tiny little pieces of those people or the Green Berets that you saw, you saw them for a couple of minutes and that changed your trajectory of your life, and it's
yeah.
amazing how that happens.
Mhm. Yep.
Like, like I have a friend who she still does things the way that I do things because she liked those, and it's just like those tiny little things, and it could be like for her, it's like how I eat tacos. But it's like those tiny little details that you pick up from other people or that just impact you in the sometimes very silly ways and sometimes very serious ways. Like
Yeah,
your whole trajectory of your life is completely different than what it could have been because of all of these people that you would just happen to meet.
yeah,
Because of
yeah. And
all of
this
the
is
quote unquote bad things that ended up being like shining lights in your life.
yeah, and and that's why kind of like forgiveness is big for me,
Mhm.
because people change.
Absolutely.
Again, like,
Yeah.
man, I was for a while, man, I was a monster.
Mhm.
I was an absolute monster of a person, and I'm not like that anymore. So
Mhm.
people change. So that's why I'm saying, like, you don't have to let that person back into your life, like be
Mhm.
best buds and stuff like that. But if they've changed, if you see they recognize their faults, they realize what they did, and they're trying to make the world a better place
Mhm.
to right the wrongs, I'd say, give them a shot, forgive them.
Yeah. I actually have somebody who's been in my life for 25 years who not one time has ever validated my feelings or acknowledged anything I said. I said something the other day, and they hit me back with like, "I see that, and I'm really glad that that happened for you." And I was like, "What just happened?" Like
Yeah.
it's completely different. And I was like, "Well, I hate you a lot less now." I didn't say that, but I was like, "I hate that person a lot less now than
There you go.
I did before because you get that little bit of that's all I ever wanted. That's all I ever needed from you. And now I
Yes.
can like let it go and I can feel free."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. See, maybe something clicked in that person's head, and they
right.
realized, well, you know what? I've been pretty shitty.
Yeah. And it was
But
just
let
I
like
me.
mean,
I
we
feel
all
like I
have a
had never
past
been
we ain't
hurt.
proud
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've
We
done
all have
stuff
past we ain't proud of.
that I'm
I'm
not
lucky
happy
mine
about,
never
but
caught up to me. But
yeah.
I would venture to go out on a limb here and say that honestly, Stella, I think this is probably the hardest hitting episode we've had yet.
This is so good. I don't wanna stop we say this every time. I don't wanna stop talking because, like, I like this conversation.
I feel like we
Before we
should
get
have
off,
just
though, I
made
do
this.
wanna ask one thing.
I feel like we should have just made this chaotic conversations instead of thriving in chaos.
We
Because
should have. Look,
wow,
Mike, if you wanna come back and have some of these, like, deep conversations, we actually have a chaotic conversations that we do when we don't have, like, special guests, but, this is kind of the conversation that we typically do. It's, like, something that's deep and meaningful, and we just try to sort
not
some
just
stuff out, so, like,
entertainment.
one-on-one therapy usually. Yeah, but it's good for people to hear too from, like, perspectives because you never know who's listening.
Yeah. No, I'm
So
always.
if
I'm always down.
you're interested yeah, if you're
Yeah.
interested in coming back, that would be actually really fun.
And
Yeah.
I
I'd be
actually
Um,
think our next one, the next time we're filming one, is this coming April 3rd. Is that Thursday?
is it? I thought we didn't get a killer pizza person that day?
No, I did not schedule anybody that day, I don't
Oh,
think.
okay.
I think I told Anthony that we're booked for April, so he was doing May. So yeah, April 3rd is open for chaotic conversations.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on my schedule. I'm actually
Sweet.
free April 3rd.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
going taking my lady to Vegas the next day for
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
a Brian McKnight concert for her birthday.
Oh,
Yay!
wow, that's
Where
awesome.
was
Oh, he's
our
oh,
invites, buddy?
oh, that man's voice.
How rude!
I'm so
Do we
glad he's still
even want
doing
him
stuff
back
too.
after that? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely, we do. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Well,
before
see,
that, so it's fine.
But I mean, so your pod is called Thriving in Chaos, and I
Mhm.
mean, I just told you like all the stuff that's happening with me, so that is like pretty much the
That's pretty
definition of
chaotic,
thriving in chaos. Like
exactly.
I've had a chaotic life, man, and
We all have. That's
we
why
all
we
have, yeah,
created the show.
yeah. But in the end, you keep on moving forward, and you recognize the bad stuff that led to the good stuff. You
Yeah.
acknowledge it, and you just keep on going, and you speak your mind, and you talk about your experiences. Hopefully that somebody is positively affected by it.
Yeah.
Like, wow,
Hopefully.
that's a
This
good
show
point.
is my depression project, as I like to call it. This is
Yeah.
what saved me from going down that rabbit hole being disabled.
There you
Now,
go.
mind you, I've been disabled pretty much for the last 2 years, but the first year was absolutely awful. I was home alone all the time. I was so sick, I could barely get out of bed most days. I didn't have anybody really because Mike's mom was still alive, so he was bouncing between back and forth between taking care of her and trying to take care of me while also working 16 hours a day to help me with my bills because I couldn't work and had no income at all. So, yeah. It was
And we
awful
hadn't
because
connected yet, so.
we hadn't reconnected yet, and I hardly ever got to really see Mike at that point because mom was so sick. So it was basically me alone all the time, and I didn't have anybody like I had now. Like I wasn't even as big as I am back then. So now that I've made a lot of connections in the entertainment industry and just around town in general, like we're not just limited to entertainment. Like we're having gas station attendants, car
All kinds
salesmen,
of cool
like
stuff, yeah.
everything, homesteaders,
I just wanna know about everybody's life.
survivalists. Right. We want to see the struggles in the real world. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I'm so tired of people that make everything look perfect in their life. Show us the good, show us the bad, show us the ugly. We're here for it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's why I created Thriving in Chaos. And I don't think I could have picked a better name for it.
No, it's perfect. It's
And,
absolutely perfect.
Stella's got as much generational trauma as I do. So who better to co host?
Hey, that's what I'm here for. Before we cut out, I have a question, and I want to wrap it
No,
back
I'm
into,
cutting it right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't do that thing yet. No stuff.
I'm not going to do the thing with the stuff.
If you could leave parents with an advice to protect their kids online, what's like the one single most important piece of advice that you would give parents? And I'm
Take
listening.
his class. That's the advice. Take his class. Right? Am I right? Am I right? Take his class.
Have open communication. Your kids need to know that you are their safe space.
Yeah.
I've worked cases where kids have gotten roped into some really bad stuff, and they've come to me because they're scared to go to their own parent because of how their parent is going to react. Right. And unfortunately, a lot of parents want to hit that nuke button, and the kids know that their parent is going to hit that nuke button and just, take all their stuff and everything like that.
That's exactly how it was for me. I hid everything from my family because they never gave me the support that I needed. Like, they were never the kind of family I could sit down and have a conversation with. Every time I tried to talk to them about anything, I got a lecture, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So I got to the point where I just got better at hiding shit, so they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I give my classes to parents and kids on advanced online safety, well, for the parents at least, I keep hitting on it over and over again. Have that open communication, right? Yeah, you can talk to your kids about the importance of online safety, what to do, what not to do, but and you can install apps on your kids' phones to control certain things and everything like that. But ultimately, if your kid really wants to, like, there's ways around.
They'll find a way.
They're gonna find.
We
a way.
all did.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It's easier in our day.
Yeah.
Right.
If
We
you
didn't
have
have
that
shit that could track
communication with your
us.
kid, have that open communication with your kid. They know that they could turn you, they could ask you questions. You're not going to judge them. You're not going to point the finger. You're not going to call them. You're not going to blame the victim.
Right.
I
think that's so important for parents to hear too. Don't blame your kids.
Don't blame your kid. Just like a domestic violence situation.
Yeah.
Guy punches his wife in the face. You don't blame the wife.
Right.
Well, your face shouldn't have been there. You know what I'm saying?
What did you do to provoke him?
You can't blame the kid for doing this stuff, because these guys, these online predators, I'm telling you, and I've been in these guys' houses, a lot of them, and they are just disgusting, because from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, they work on manipulation, right? So that 40-year-old that has been working on manipulation for 20 years, from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed, is going to be way smarter at this stuff than your 12-year-old daughter. So not blame the kid, be there for your kid, have open communication, be willing to talk about stuff. They need to know if they mess up, like humans do, we all mess up.
Absolutely.
They need to know if they mess up, they can come to you, because ultimately you want them safe, and they need to know that.
Yeah.
Right. It's
And
not
actually,
their fault. They can't trust adults.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the adult's fault, not theirs. And it's also worth mentioning, just like a bit of parenting advice, if I can do that.
No,
I'm not an expert. I'm just a parent, and this works for my kids. But if you don't, I have found that if you don't overreact, if you can control your reaction in small things, so like they spill a cup of water on the floor, if you're just like, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," your reaction is, "I can't believe you. What are you, stupid? I can't believe you would do that. Just why didn't you hold the cup better?" It happens, man. Let's just clean it up and move on with our lives. Like, I'm not mad at you about that. But constantly reassuring your kids, I'm not mad at you. You're not at fault. Things happen. It's okay. Let's solve the problem and move on. And let's get better. What can we learn from this? What can we do with this? That is such a better conversation than getting angry about that thing. And, I'm human. I do get mad about stupid shit with my kids all the freaking time. But my kids also know, like, I'm not actually mad. I'm just mad that the thing happened. I'm reacting to the thing. I'm not mad at you. It is not your fault. Let's just clean this up and move on with our lives. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Right.
a big deal. It's really not a big deal.
One last thing in closing. I actually had a client that I worked with as when I worked for CPS, and they were the very authoritarian type of parents to where they were like almost a military boot camp all the time.
Mhm.
So in retaliation, the kids ran away from home. They got violent.
Mhm.
They hid everything under the sun from these people. They tried to commit SC,
Mhm.
S side. And they started self-harming and everything under the sun. And the parents are like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, restricting them more obviously isn't the answer.
Let them
I'm
breathe.
like, look, I'm not telling you to be your kid's best friend, but you can't be a Nazi either, because that's
Yeah.
not going to work. Yes, kids need boundaries. Yes, they need discipline on certain things when they mess up, but the crime has to fit the punishment,
Absolutely.
and I used, because their kids were older, they were teenagers, they weren't babies, they're almost old enough to be on their own.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not, kids are going to be kids. So either you accept what they're going to do and make sure they do it safely, or you get that phone call in the middle of the night telling you to come scrape them up off the side of the highway.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not saying I condone teen drinking, okay? That is not what I'm saying. But I am saying that we know it's a given, proven fact, teenagers are going to drink. They're going to go to parties. They're going to smoke pot.
Mhm.
Would you rather be the parent that's like, hey, I already know you're going to do this. They're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to drink. Right. So when you're done not drinking, call me to come pick you
Yeah,
up.
exactly. I tell my kids that all the time. I don't care what you do. Don't do anything unsafe. If you have been drinking, I don't care. If it's 1, you call me. I don't care what time of night it is. I will come get you. I will
Exactly.
come
And
get
I'm
your
like,
friends. I will make multiple trips. No one needs to be driving in that situation. Put
exactly.
everybody clown car in my car. I don't care. We're going. We're getting home safely.
That's exactly what I said. Do you want them to be able to come to you and admit, hey, I made a mistake,
Exactly.
help me fix it? Or do you want them to make bigger mistakes trying to hide the first mistake that really isn't that bad compared to, a drunk driver killing somebody or them
Right.
dying themselves from drunk driving?
Exactly. That would be way
I
worse.
would much rather
Way
be the
worse.
parent that's like, hey, I understand you're going to drink. Give me a call. I'll come get you.
Right.
And
Tell your friends. I will come get them too. I don't care.
I would love to be that parent that, my kids come to me and like, hey, I'm going to this party. I know I'm not old enough for this, but I'm probably going to do it. Are you going to crucify me, or can we work this out? You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
I want them to tell me before they mess up, because then I can be like, well, these are the potential consequences. This is the potential gain.
Right.
Which one means more to you?
There's a gentleman on social media that actually has like a whole series on this. And one of his was about his, I think, daughter had come home from a night of drinking, and he took her home, put her to bed. And the next morning he was like, here's some orange juice. Here's some breakfast. We're going to have a conversation about what happened. And I'm not going to be mad at you. We're not going to yell. We're just going to have a very serious conversation about what happened and the implications of what you have done. And that's exactly how it should be. Like, you're having these very, you're going to do grown up things. And I told my daughter this too, because she just started middle school, and everybody's dating everybody now, but it's like, you're going to do these grown up things. We're going to have these grown up reactions, and we're going to have these grown up we're going to handle these like grown ups. If that's what you want to be, this is how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Exactly. The more you treat them like toddlers, the more they are going to give you a reason.
They're going to rebel against. Yeah.
And
kids
the more
kids want individuality.
Some of these parents think that the more you smother them and the stricter you are, the less trouble they'll get into.
Yeah.
That is the complete opposite. The less restrictive you are, the less trouble they'll get into, because they have no reason to hide anything or lie to you.
There's a balance. There's definitely a balance there too. Because if you're too loose with your kids, they'll go do whatever they want to do, and then it's going to be bad. But
I'm not saying
walk the line.
What I'm saying is, like, if my kid calls me drunk in the middle of the night,
be mad.
I'm not going to be mad.
I'll be mad.
I'm going to, somebody once told me that, and I'm going to use the analogy of training a dog, you know, when your dog runs away, your first instinct is to yell and scream and spank their ass when they come back.
Mhm.
But that's not right, because if you do that, then you teach them that coming to you when their name is called is a bad thing and they're going to get hit. So then they run away more because they're scared of you.
Right.
Whereas if you don't chase them, it doesn't look like a game. If you just call their name and you ignore them, it's not so fun to run around anymore because
Right.
they're not getting anything out of it. They're not getting your attention.
Mhm.
So then they automatically come back because they're not getting your attention.
Yep.
So that's kind of the same concept with teenagers. Like, I'm not telling you to go buy them alcohol in the store, but I'm also
Right.
telling you not to crucify them if they call you for help either.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
they make a mistake, you treat it like a mistake. You don't treat it like the world is ending.
I mean, it's only a
all it
mistake
is.
if you don't learn from it, in my opinion. I mean, we are humans. We're born to sin. I
Absolutely.
mean, it's kind of in our job description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were not created to be sinless creatures. We were created to fuck shit up. And that's
Right.
exactly what we do. Hence the term thriving in chaos, because we are basically our whole ass chaos theory all by ourselves.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's how we learn. How are we ever going to know what not to do if we don't do it?
Mhm.
You know, that's why they say in order to achieve all that's possible, you have to first attempt what is impossible, or you're never going to know what is possible.
Right.
You know, and sometimes you can talk to kids till you're blue in the face, but if they don't learn the hard way, they just don't figure it out. And
Absolutely.
I mean, I was that kid. You know, my parents could talk to me till I was blue in the face, but it all went in one ear and out the other because they didn't handle me properly.
Yeah.
You know, they were not the nurturing kind. They were do as I say or I'll beat your ass kind. So
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
mine were more nurturing, so it was more just like I don't want to disappoint them, but at the same time, like that has its own implications as well.
I mean, I felt like I was nothing but a disappointment. Even now, I feel like I'm nothing
I
but a
always feel like that.
disappointment.
Yeah, I felt like that.
So that is where self-esteem begins, is how we are
Mhm.
raised. You know?
Yeah, you are
When
the
you're-
voices. You are the voice in your child's head. That is what it comes down
Exactly.
to.
Exactly.
You are the voice in your child's head.
You know, when kids are sponges, so you know how you talk to people is how they're going to talk to people, or
Mhm.
how you talk to them is how they're going to talk to everyone else. So if you're
Wow.
constantly yelling and screaming, then they're going to be the yellers and screamers over everything. You know,
Mhm.
the smallest thing is
Mhm.
going to set them off the biggest.
You have a comment for that off camera. My kids, they do enjoy yelling at each other and bickering constantly, and I am not that person, and I am trying to tell them, you don't have to be right all the time. It is okay to be like, hey, I think this thing, you think this thing. Let's discuss the differences.
But we also
Like-
know where some of that comes from.
Yeah, like I know these things, like the situation about something about like their grandmother and their cousin calling, like, well, she doesn't have an iPad, she uses their aunt's iPad. And it was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, and then, you know, one kid is like, no, I know this because of this. And the other one's like, no, I know this because grandma said this. And it was just like, guys, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. And it
Mike's
was just like,
getting comfortable. He was like,
Sorry.
this is supposed to
Yeah.
end 20 minutes ago.
but it was just that thing where it was like, you know, you can just, you know this and you know this, and there's got to be differences in between. And really, it doesn't matter what the answer is. You can still talk about it. It's fine. You don't have to insist that you're right all the time.
And you know, we've learned that one way isn't always the right way. There's more than one right way.
Yeah,
You know, like
exactly.
2 plus 2 is always going to be 4, but so is 3 plus 1.
Yeah.
And
There's
5
no wrong
minus
answer in
1.
that way.
There's no
Yeah.
wrong answer. There's multiple right answers.
That's my
So
favorite
there's
parenting phrase. There's no
multiple-
wrong answer.
There's so many other ways to get to the same answer.
Anyways,
Anyway,
sorry about that.
sorry, Mike. We kind of hijacked your episode,
You're
buddy.
That's okay. Come back
So
on
good.
Thursday and we'll talk. We'll dig deep some more. 'Cause this is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
No, more like we'll just let you sit there and watch. But seriously, this was a great episode, and I'm glad he brought all this out. Like,
yeah.
up until now, we've been primarily entertainment. So this was a very hard hitting episode. Like
Right.
we've been promising people, like
Right.
we're not just about the good. Like we want to show the bad and the ugly too.
Yeah.
We all live in the same world. Let's show all sides of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And hopefully I don't get canceled for the feminist comments earlier. Just saying.
No.
Difference of
gonna kick-
opinion. We're all allowed
they're-
to have
they're-
differences of opinion.
You didn't
They're-
think you
they're
didn't
gonna
say
take
anything
my-
to us,
my-
so-
I just lost my woman card. Just saying. I'm now going to be known as a dude with girl parts.
Which
for
is what
that
you said
reason.
before, anyways.
I know. People tell me that. Like my husband, I'm not even gonna lie.
I've been
I
told
burp
that
like
before too.
I burp like a dude, like loud, obnoxious, deep, bellowing. Yeah. My husband tells me all the time if he didn't know I was a woman, he'd swear he married a dude. He's like, babe, if I was blind and I couldn't see you, I'd swear you were my brother. Like,
Yeah, that's funny.
not
Yeah,
my
I
wife.
My attitude is not the typical female, so I what everybody is used to seeing from a girl, so I get that a lot too.
Anyway, Michael, thank you for being here.
Thank
We
you
will
for
see
your
you
time.
Thursday.
You are very welcome.
Hopefully-
Glad I can do this.
Yeah.
We
It's awesome.
are seriously looking forward to Thursday now because it's going to be a very hard hitting episode of Chaotic Conversations, which has
Yeah.
been on hiatus for a few months thanks to our lovely buddy Anthony Caimano over there.
Yes.
But yes, we love it. We love it all. We love
Yeah,
all the
just-
guests.
Just send me a message about time and place and what you want me to do and all that jazz, and I'll do it.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
Yep. We will for sure email you the casting call tonight. I'll get you a script out ASAP.
Awesome.
And on that note, guys, we are out.